Hi and welcome to the Malat Cookery channel. So today I'm going to reveal my top secret recipe on how to make the ultimate McDonald's Chicken McNuggets at home. So all the McDonald's are closed in the UK because of the coronavirus outbreak, and our twins have persuaded me to give up my secret recipe, which I never thought I was going to do, because apparently people need their McNugget fix. So the key to this recipe, the thing that sets this recipe apart from any other recipe that I've ever seen on the internet, is producing a celery water in order to make the batter for the nuggets. I've never seen it done before, and it is, I tell you now, it's definitely the key ingredient or the key difference between this recipe and everything else that's out there. Now, according to our twins, this recipe is actually nicer than McDonald's or even KFC for that matter, but I'll leave you to be the judge of that. So as usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients now and anything else we're going to need for today. So the ingredients for today's recipe: I've got a chicken breast which has been cut into large chunks. So this is about 250 grams of chicken breast meat, 120 grams of plain or all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, some salt and pepper which we're going to be using for seasoning, 2 celery sticks which have been cut into large chunks, washed first and cut into large chunks. I've got a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of MSG. We've got 2 cloves of garlic which have been just roughly cut, a teaspoon of pepper. So if you want a really authentic taste, then white pepper is the thing to use. I've only got black pepper, so I've got a teaspoon of black pepper. Got 4 tablespoons of water, and to that I've added a teaspoon of corn flour. And we've got half a small onion which has been roughly cut, and then this, which I'll show you later, is just to shape the chicken nuggets themselves. So one of the dominant flavours, believe it or not, in a McDonald's Chicken McNugget is celery. So you've got celery and pepper, or white pepper really, which is the 2 dominant flavours. Now, McDonald's use a commercially available product, obviously, to replicate that celery taste. A domestic cook hasn't got access to that, so I just want to show you how to get that celery taste into the Chicken McNuggets without actually adding solid bits of celery to the recipe. And we're going to do that by preparing the water that goes into the batter for the nuggets. So in this pan, a small saucepan, I've got 300 millilitres of water. So I'm just going to bring that up to a gentle simmer, and then we're going to add the celery, the onion and the garlic to this. So the water's now started to boil, so in goes the celery, the onion and the garlic. So we're just going to gently simmer this now for about 30 minutes uncovered, and so the water will reduce by about 1/3 and all that flavour will come out of the celery. So you know when this is done, when the celery starts to go soft. So once the celery is cooked, what we need to do now is strain the water, reserve the water in a bowl. We then need to leave this water to cool down completely and then chill in the fridge for about half an hour. So this is definitely something that you can do the day before if you're thinking of doing this recipe. It's definitely what I do. What I would normally do is I'd do this process the night before, and then this water is really chilled because we're going to use this water for the batter. So while our celery water is chilling in the fridge, we can prepare the chicken meat. So I've got one of these mini chopper appliances, or you can use a food processor, but you definitely need to process this chicken meat in order to get the correct texture. You can't get away from this part of the recipe. So we just place our chicken breast meat in the bowl. Next thing I'm going to do is just blast this for about 30 seconds. Okay, next thing we want to do, we want to add our MSG. Our cornstarch solution. Just make sure that's all mixed in, it hasn't settled on the bottom of the bowl. Our sugar. Again, just give that a blast. Okay, and then just want to season this a little bit of salt, and some pepper, and then just process this again for about another 30 seconds. It should be well blended. Okay, so this is what we should end up with, almost like a paste. So all I'm going to do now is take this out of this bowl and just cover it with cling film in a separate bowl and reserve it in the fridge just to get it nice and chilled. Okay, so just before I put the cling film or food wrap on top of this, just want to show you the consistency that you're looking for. So this is basically just a paste. So once our chicken paste is nice and chilled in the fridge, the next thing to do is to shape the McNuggets. So I've always said in videos that whenever we're trying to replicate takeaway or restaurant food, three main things we have to concentrate on. One is the taste, obviously. The next one is the texture. And the third one is the appearance. And obviously McDonald's put a lot of effort into those three different areas. And we need to do the same thing if we want to be successful. So I've got an oven tray with some greaseproof paper on the top. I've taken the top off a milk carton. So if you're going to do this method, you want some form of plastic bottle that's quite substantial so it doesn't deform when we push the meat out. I've cut the top off. And then I've just cut a little section out of here because there are four shapes to a McDonald's McNugget. This shape is what our children call the boot, so I'm just doing one. So I've placed our chicken paste into the container. I'm using gloves because it is quite messy. So what I'm going to do is place knuckles into the actual container itself, push down, and then use a sharp knife just to cut each one off. So I'll show you the first one. So we just push down till we get about maybe 5mm thick nuggets. Cut it off with the knife. Like that, and then we move on to the next one. Okay, so that's our nuggets formed. I just scraped out the last of the chicken paste and formed this one by hand. I don't know if you can see, but it's the worst one of the lot. It's quite difficult to form this chicken paste by hand, which is why I've used the milk carton, or the adapted milk carton. So the next thing to do now is I'm going to cover this with food wrap. Just slightly oil the food wrap first so it doesn't stick to the chicken paste. Cover it with food wrap, and I'm going to place this in the freezer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Not until it freezes, but until it goes really cold. The colder this paste is, the easier it is to handle to actually fry with. So we now want to prepare our coating, and that's in 3 parts. So we're going to have a thin basic batter in this bowl, seasoned breading in this bowl, and a thicker batter containing the baking powder in this one. So we start off with our thin batter. So from our 120 grams of flour, just 2 tablespoons of flour. And we just want to mix in some of our chilled celery water, a little bit at a time, until we get a really thin batter. Okay, so that's our thin basic batter done. The next thing to do is the thicker batter. So this time we want 3 tablespoons of our plain flour. Want to add our baking powder. And our celery water, and just make it thicker, about twice as thick as the batter you've made at the start. Okay, so that's about the consistency of our thicker batter. And then the last one to do is our seasoned breading. So in a larger bowl goes the remainder of the flour. Teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of pepper, and then just mix that in. Okay, so we've got our deep fat fryer, which is up to temperature now at 170 degrees centigrade. We've got our thin basic batter, our seasoned breading, and our thicker batter. Also got our chilled chicken nugget pieces. So we just take one of those, cover that in our thin batter, shake off any excess, coat with our seasoned breading, and then into the thicker batter, and then straight into the oil. Make sure that if you have a basket in your deep fat fryer that it's at the bottom, because we don't want the nuggets, the coated nuggets, to actually touch the basket straight away until they've managed to cook. Otherwise they'll just stick to the wire on the baskets. So I'm going to get about 3 of these done, and then I'll show you what they're like when they're cooked. So there you go, absolutely delicious McDonald's Chicken McNuggets replicated in your own home. Let's just run through some key facts then in order to get this recipe absolutely perfect. The celery water is key. As I said in the video, you can do that the day before. That celery water has to be chilled in order to make the batter. The second thing is, with the processed chicken that we form into those chicken nuggets, yeah, you can use the top of a milk carton if you like, or you can do it by hand, but the important thing is that it sits on that tray and gets to almost freezing point. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you were able to actually do this recipe with those chicken pieces from frozen. But it's key that we get those as cold as possible so we can handle them correctly, because of course it's processed meat, so it's lost some of its structure. And then the last point is that the temperature of the oil at 170 degrees centigrade, drop those chicken nuggets slowly into the oil and just make sure that they don't stick to the bottom of the actual fryer. Please subscribe to the channel, and as usual, if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit the like button, and thank you very much for watching.